everyone.
We'll just give it a couple more minutes as we wait for more people. But if you're here for our Instagram live focus on setting and sticking to financial goals, you're in the right place.
Hi everyone, Bimpe here. Look forward to an exciting conversation this evening, interactive, hopefully.
Yes, exactly. Brilliant. Getting a couple more people join now. Thank you for joining us. I think it should be a good discussion. It's the last day of January already. I can't believe it. This month has gone by so quickly.
I think it's clearly one has to be intentional about all the things we want to do. Because if you sit around thinking about it, before you know it, time flies. And if you haven't done it yet, a month has gone by. I wouldn't want to say we've lost a month, but a month has gone by already. And we've only got 11 more months left.
I know, till we're saying Happy New Year.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, and if you're trying to measure whether or not you've kept to that New Year's resolution, if you haven't started doing what you said you're going to do, then time. Like I said, time is moving.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. If you resonate with that message, let us know in the chat. But let's start, because I think we have so much we want to cover. And really want to dive into the conversation. Welcome everyone, as we said, welcome to this Instagram live on the last day of January 2024, focused on setting and sticking to your 2024 financial goals. Let's start off with introductions, because I know not everyone might know myself and know yourself. So you go ahead first. Please tell us who you are and a bit about Wealth 8 as well.
Hi everyone. Well, maybe the last day of the year, last day of the month, or the first month of the year, so I can still say Happy New Year. But I hope your year has started off to a flying start. My name is Bimpe Nkontchou. I'm co-founder and CEO of Wealth 8. And Wealth 8 is a digital investment platform. It's an app, a mobile app, that gives everyone, and we really believe everyone should have access to saving and investing in global products as a route to building financial freedom, as a route to actually building wealth and generational wealth. Wealth 8 was launched in 2021, so we're about 3 years into the game. And, we continue to build a community, and that's very key, that we are building a community of like-minded people who are really interested in their long-term financial wellness. And that's really who we are. We actually do have quite a bit of financial education and financial literacy content on the app. Again, the idea is to demystify the language of investing. Some people feel overwhelmed, some people feel intimidated, and the idea is we just want to make it, instinctive, and we want people to feel comfortable about the idea of saving and investing for the long term. So that's me. That's Wealth 8.
I love that. That's such a great story and so important as well. If you resonate with that, give us some hearts. Let us know in the chat that you're there listening and learning already. And to introduce myself, my name is Mary Agbesanwa. I'm a wealth management sales professional, worked in fintech and corporate, currently fund employed, doing a range of different things. And yeah, I'm really passionate about this topic of saving, investing, talking about financial goals and goals generally. I'm also the founder of the Now You're Talking Network. So we are a community and business focused on helping women earn more and be more confident, whether that's through attending workshops or lives like this. Really that kind of active pursuit of bettering yourself, leveling yourself up is what we love to talk about. And of course, a big part of that has to be about finances. So I'm really excited that we're partnering for this discussion today. Okay, we are 7 minutes in. We've got a good number of people listening. And before you ask, we will record this. You'll be able to watch it back on the Wealth 8 page. And if you subscribe to their newsletter, you'll get the link straight away into your inbox as well. Bimpe, let's start off just by defining, like, really simply what exactly is a financial goal, and why is it important to set them?
Absolutely. I mean, a financial goal, and that's like the key word tonight. It's really your personal big picture. It's your way of deciding and determining what you're going to spend your money on,
Yeah.
and also on how you're going to save some money, hopefully. So, but hopefully a lot of us are income earners, whether, starting out, whether part-time, full-time, and whatever it is we're doing, or even if we're not income earners, we're still at home moms, but we have some money in our, we're stewards of money. We're probably having to manage the family's finances, even if we're still at home moms. And so that goal, it's personal, but it also impacts
Yeah.
family. How are you going to spend your money this year, and how are you going to save some money? And when you're talking about goals, you also should think about, goals being bite-sized, short-term, medium-term, long-term.
Yeah.
Short-term goals, paying your rent, paying your mortgage if you own a property already, with your food bills, your utility bills. We all know the cost of energy has skyrocketed. Those are short-term goals, things you have to do every month. But short-term goals should also be, those car payments, if you buy a car, if you bought a car, or saving towards a car, or the holiday, the next holiday you want to go on, and that's a short-term goal. Your medium-term goals would be, if you've got children, your school fees, or maybe your school fees if you're still studying. If you want to buy property the next, say, 5 years, anything that's I would say a 2 to 5 year plan is your short-term goal, and that's what you want to achieve, whether you want to buy property, whether you've got children you're saving up to send to school in the next 5, 6 years. That's your medium-term goal. And those are just examples. I can go on and on. Long-term goals, typically thinking of your retirement.
Yeah.
And, male or female, we are all living longer. I think that we all, we care for ourselves much more. We think of eating and exercise, and obviously it all manifests in the fact that a lot of people are living into their 90s. But you don't want to be working into your 90s. So you're thinking that you might end up working till you're 65, 60, 70 at the most. I mean, most companies, the retirement age is around 60, 65. So you've got to think of how you're going to sustain your lifestyle when you stop earning an income. That's your long-term goal. That's your pension. That's your, different pots of money for that. I also forget to mention that you should think of an emergency fund as a short-term goal. Because, we all income earners, but unfortunately, life does throw those unexpected things at us, whether it's, an accident, whether it's a health issue, whether it's even helping someone back home with a major expenditure, and you're called upon. And that's should be keeping an emergency fund should definitely be a short-term goal. So that's really what goals are, what your financial goals are, definitely. And it's important to set them. It's super important. And I think really this is the time, beginning of the year, to sit down, get a piece of paper, write those goals out, be specific. So we're not talking about just, I've given you examples, but, each one knows their goals. Be specific. Tell yourself, I need to save, £5,000, £2,000 towards that, what's it called? I just mentioned having an emergency fund. Tell yourself, I need to go on holiday. I'm going to save 2,000. So you write them all down, and then so you can measure. And I want to save this amount of money in 6 months, in 3 years, in 5 years. I want to pay off my credit card bills. That's the goal. So be specific. And so you can measure them, give yourself a reasonable timeline. Don't be too hard on yourself at the same time, because we all have to live a little, working so hard. But be specific about goals, give a deadline, and make sure you can measure, so you can go back in 6 months or 3 months, every quarter, and check in on how you're doing. And if you have to alter, decide, well, it's going to take me longer to save that money, or it's going to, oh gosh, I've got a windfall, and I managed to reach those goals faster. I got a bonus or whatever. But be specific, write them down, and so you can measure them. And so it's very important, to do all of that, and you're setting your goals.
I completely agree with that. I would love to hear from the people listening. Have you set financial goals before? How do you do it? That's kind of the focus of today's Instagram Live, on setting and sticking to financial goals. I loved everything that you said there. I loved how you broke it into the short, the medium, and the long term. The short term being kind of the emergency fund, the debt that you might need to pay off. And then all the way to the long term, thinking about retirement planning, pensions. I know there might be some Gen Z, some millennials on the call that are just like, I don't want to hear about that. But it's important, and we have to holistically as well. And I think, to me, financial goals is also thinking about setting goals in alignment with the other things happening in your life. So whether you're wanting to get married, or you're wanting to buy a house, all of these things require money, and how are you thinking about your life goals in alignment with your financial goals is really important as well. So
Absolutely. And have you set your financial goals, Mary?
I think I might have lost your sound. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, absolutely. I said, have you set your financial goals?
I have. So I like to do it at the start of the year when I think about what are the things I want to achieve, when I'm booking my flights using the discounts on Ryanair, British Airways, and just thinking about what are the things I need to save for this year, in the next few years, and do I need to adjust things like how much I'm contributing to my pension, things like that as well. Even just for me to go unemployed and take a couple of months off, I had to think about the goals that I had and what would I need to eat into my emergency fund? Do I have enough money to survive for the next few months? Those kind of things. So it's just about, as we said, thinking forward, planning ahead, and being intentional and not being afraid. I think it's interesting how many people are just so afraid to set those financial goals because they can put themselves off, and just say, oh no, buying a house in this economy feels like such a far away target. But like I said, breaking it down into kind of bite size, what they say smart goal setting, can be really helpful. Anything else around setting financial goals that you do that you think our listeners would love to hear about?
I mean, definitely, I'm sort of quite old school. I write things down. So every beginning of every year, I go and buy myself a nice sort of thick, not even a diary, just a book with paper, lined paper, where I can, literally almost sit down and say to myself, write down what I want this year to look like. That's
exactly.
And usually it's tied into our financial goals as well, because if I'm thinking I'd like to, travel more, or I love art, buy a piece of art or something, then I say, right, these are the things I'd like to do. This is my my dream list, and then how am I going to achieve them? It is part of my financial goals, and some of them are short term because part of my dream list is retiring, is being able to have a decent sort of pot that I can earn a passive income from, and ensure that I can travel. And that's so that's part. And then I then check in really on a monthly basis. And if you can't do it monthly and your time does fly past, do it quarterly. Set yourself a date with yourself where you have either go to a cafe or go to the park and take that piece of paper and just, which you've written down already, and go back on it and see where you are. And don't be too hard on yourself. If for any reason you've slipped off a bit, then it's time to sort of get back on track. And maybe you can say, well, I'm not going to go out this for 2 weeks or whatever I'm doing. That's the extra money that I should have saved, I've been spending. So I do check in. I cut myself some slack, but I definitely check in on what I'm doing. And I think if you do it regularly, it gives you time to readjust and just fine tune what you're doing. And that's one thing I would say to everyone to do, for sure.
I actually even have the calendar time blocked in my diary on a monthly basis to review my finances, to check how I've performed versus what I expected. So the actuality versus the budget. And then I just do like 2 sentences of commentary, some areas that I might need to be careful with, some areas that I can think about. And I find that just carving out that time really helps as well. So if you're listening, if you have any other tips, little hacks that you do to make sure that, like we said, it's not only about setting the goals, but sticking to them, anything else, feel free to share in the chat. But as we know, everything isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Life can throw you this way, that way, pandemic, cost of living crisis, inflation, energy bills. Like my last energy bill was £200 in a month. I couldn't believe it. I was like, house is still cold sometimes, and it was £200. I couldn't believe it. So it can be really crazy. What would you say are some common financial challenges you see amongst professionals, either people you work with or maybe some wealth users that have confided in you as well?
Do you know, I think debt, taking on debt is one of the most common challenges, and I don't think anyone, even us speaking about financial goals. I mean, please, I think no one should even think that we're perfect or have any perfect sort of track record here.
Exactly.
We've all taken on too much debt at some time. Sometimes it's for, when I say good reason, as something that's life-threatening, either for a healthcare bill or even utilities have gone up, and some people just didn't actually program that into their income stream, basically. So taking on debt, and I think it's also a bit too easy now to take on debt. There's the whole buy now, pay later, a fad that's out there, and I think again, it's with the click of a button, you go online, you want to buy something really, really reasonable, and right away there's a box there that says you can pay for this in 5 installments with XYZ interest, and I think that is a challenge. I think the challenge of submitting to temptation to take on debt is a challenge in itself. And I think because, especially for professionals, because people, sometimes we and I have fallen into this trap before, but I've had to learn from it, whether using credit cards, but we say, all right, I've got a good job, I've got a good paycheck, and we're spending money before we've even earned it.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
We're saying, oh yeah, I'll be, and then the end of the month comes, and to be honest with you, we don't balance, as we say, because that's expense, that's extra expense that you made on that card, thinking, end of the month. But the end of the month comes, and by the time you pay your utility bills and pay this and pay that, and maybe you had to buy a spare tire for your car, which you didn't think about. Actually, you find that thing, that spontaneous sometimes expense that you incurred, you then really have to start looking for extra money somewhere to pay for it. So the challenge is debt, and I think with bad debt and not servicing your debt payments, or paying on credit cards that have huge interest rates, which means you're paying in the end much more for that item you thought cost you £200. By the time you finish paying your credit card bill, you paid with £350.
Crazy.
And that overspending because of not budgeting is a big challenge for everyone. And I think people who are professional people are even, because if you don't have a job, frankly, you don't have money to spend. But if you have money to spend, we tend to overspend. Somehow, suddenly, that pay rise that we got a year ago, which I thought was fantastic, suddenly is not enough. So that's too much debt, and I think those unexpected expenses, and it eats into our savings. Even if we've had savings before, or had savings put aside, we look at the credit card bills and we start thinking, I need to take for my savings, and it's just sort of snowballs, doesn't it? And I think suddenly you can't cope anymore, and yes, you suddenly realize at the end of the month comes and you just are not making ends meet, and I think that's a challenge that is leads to all sorts of things: stress, lack of sleep, health issues, even mood swings. It could actually eat into your relationship with your partner, husband or wife, if one partner is overspending and you're not sitting down to discuss it. So those are the challenges I see that are quite common mostly to professionals who earn an income, but I think to everyone. And then we have to just really, really try to think about that and be intentional about setting goals, budgeting as much as possible, living within our means, and really putting money aside to save for the medium and long term.
Yeah, completely agree. Welcome. I saw a couple more people joining. Happy Wednesday. This is an Instagram live where we're talking about setting and sticking to financial goals. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you're in the right place. You joined us. We're still at the beginning of the conversation. We've spoken about the importance of financial goals, what they are, and now we're talking about the challenges. We're recognizing pandemic has come and gone, inflation is here, high interest rate is here. How can we bounce back in those kind of situations? I want to reiterate some of the points you just mentioned, Bimpe. So firstly, around stress, and actually financial stress is the #1 leading cause of stress in the UK. A lot of people are having issues with debt, as you said, and it causes a lot of stress, and you can see people at work working beyond the years that they wanted to work because of the financial burdens that they have. You also touched upon that thing that can happen with us. You get a pay increase and you start spending more, that lifestyle creep, where you're just slowly but surely saying, you know what, I need a better car. You know what, I need a bigger house. You know what, I need that designer top that everybody's wearing. And you know what, I need to be in Dubai more often. Whatever it might be for you, that lifestyle creep can keep on happening. So being aware of that and working on your psychology of money. Actually, one of the books we're reading as part of the Now He's Talking Network book club is Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it talks a lot about comparison. It talks a lot about unpicking where some of your financial behaviors come from, because those can be from maybe your parents or other loved ones that were close to you, and you've adopted some of those behavior traits as well. So thank you for joining us. If you have any other questions, please feel free to share in the chat, or we have at least 15 minutes at the end to go through your questions as well. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. So the smart financial habits. We've spoken about the macro things that might be happening, the challenges. What are the smart things that these working professionals, working hard, doing good things in their day job, what should you be doing amidst your busy working life to keep up with good financial habits?
I think definitely the idea of saving and investing is key. And I think people always say, "Oh gosh, I'll start doing that when I'm rich and I've made lots of money." And I'll be honest with you, you need to start doing it on the very first paycheck, even if you're 20, 21. Think about the fact, and there are there's data that shows you that if you've been putting aside, imagine you're putting aside £100 a month, from age 25 and 25 years, and you don't touch that money. Trust me, and you're putting it aside and saving it and investing it in certain products that will give you certain returns. I'm not going to go into that or advise you about that, because this is not what we're about tonight. But just even getting the habit of putting money aside, whether in a savings account with interest bearing or investing it, that definitely is a habit. It's a lifetime habit that you should start with. And then people will say, "Oh, I don't have enough." Now that's the different rules. Some people tell you, and I often say, start with 10% if you can. If you can put aside to 10% and leave on 90%. So that rule, actually, I call it paying yourself first, because that 10% that you're putting away, okay? So you've earned £1,000, you put away £100. You're not giving it to anybody. You're not even, you're saving it for yourself.
Already taken his portion.
Yeah, exactly. So the taxman has taken his portion, exactly. So what you're doing is paying yourself first before you're paying your rent. So make sure that the 90% can cover your rent, can cover your overheads, can cover anything else. And to be honest, when I say 10%, if you're going to be really disciplined, and when you started, you're earning regularly, you're earning an income, the rule really is more like 20, okay? And at that 10 can go into a savings, 10% can go into savings, 10% can, if you think you want to actually start putting money into an investment portfolio, you can. That could be the 10%. The 20% really is your short, medium, and long term, financial goal that you're setting right there with that 20%.
Yeah.
And then from the 80% that's left, yes, I would say you can live on that. And even within that 80%, the rule again is half of that 80%, as in 40 to 50% of a paycheck, should really cover your overheads, your needs, not your wants. So 80%, if you put 20% away, into your emergency fund, some of it in cash, some of it in some sort of investment portfolio, that's 20%. Your 80%, you can take that 80% and actually at least half, which is 40% or 40 to 50%, should go towards your needs.
Yeah.
And your needs are your rent, your car payments, your utility bills must again be the next thing, and those payments should go out by direct debit. So even your 10 or 20% should go out by direct debit, so that literally, if you get your paycheck and you set up all the direct debits and standing orders to go into your savings account or savings portfolio, to go into your car payments, utility bills, telephone, mobile phone bills, even if you have a credit card servicing it, then you know that actually there is less of a temptation to go over and spend out of that, because it's going out anyway.
Exactly.
Straight up. So set up standing orders and direct debits to cover your needs. Then if you've got, so that we've said 20%, and if you've got 50 going towards your needs, that's 70. So 30% of what you've earned could be your wants. And those wants could be not necessarily your wants today, but it could be going towards that holiday or that designer item or something. And that's really the rule of thumb. That's smart sort of saving, smart goals really,
Yeah.
and ensuring that you can actually meet those goals. I don't know that if that helps.
It does. I think people will really resonate with that. If you like what you're hearing, please give us a heart, show us something. But just to reiterate, the first point around longevity, and they say time in the market is better than time in the market. Note the difference in what I'm saying there. It's about your longevity, being invested for the long term. Most of you, if you're busy working professionals, you don't have time to be day trading. You do not have time to be forex trading. So thinking about that long term view of the market is definitely where you can benefit from. We've spoken about reviewing and reflecting and carving out that time to look at your finances, to face your goals set. That's really important as well. And I love what you said about paying yourself first. If you're going to pay yourself first in 2024, please put it in the chat. We need to hear that people are listening and resonating with what we're saying. It's so important. Like, the tax man's taking his portion, utility will come and take their portion. So how can you say, I'm going to pay myself first, I'm going to set up those direct debits for savings and investment, as I should be doing? Really, really good tips there as well.
If I could also just point out, I mean, I've said, if you could put away 20% and part of that in cash, part of that in investing, you must realize that in investing, your capital is at risk. Okay.
Yeah.
So there isn't, I mean, I'm not saying to you, right, whatever you put into investing is definitely going to, balloon. What I'm saying is it's a good habit to have. It also means you start to build knowledge, and educate yourself around what you're investing in, why, what is your risk appetite. You have to ask yourself all those questions before you even venture into investing. And I think you do have to realize that whilst investing is one way to make your money grow, but the capital is a risk. You could actually lose some of it, and the markets do fluctuate. There is volatility. So I think that's something I need to just point out. But hopefully it's not something that should overwhelm or discourage you. It's a learning curve, and I think it's good to start learning about it, but doing it cautiously, but also with the knowledge and understanding that your capital is at risk.
Yeah, really, really important point. We hear it in all the adverts. We hear about different fintech products as well. And for me, for a long time, my financial goal was, let me just spend 2 hours a week learning. Like, for many of you on this call, that might just be step one. 2 hours a week, going on platforms like Wealth8, going on different platforms to just learn and educate yourself before you even invest a penny. Because it's so much better to educate yourself. About ISAs, about different pension products, about different things, so that when you do start investing, you feel confident, you feel well informed. And can you commit to an hour or two a week reading a couple of articles on BBC or the FT or whatever you want? Dedicating that time to learning, I think, is really, really important. So we have half an hour left of this Instagram live. The time is flying. I'm seeing some comments. Please keep the comments and the questions going. That'll be really good to hear. Let's talk about financial planning and people's approach to investments. Post-pandemic, how do you think this has shaped the way people think about how they plan for their finances and investing? So as we said a couple of times, there are these financial shocks that can happen to you as an individual that you can never control. No one could have predicted COVID. No one could have predicted likely the inflation that we're seeing now. How do you think this has affected people's psychology, and what can they do about it?
I mean, I think I can even start with myself, and I think hopefully to resonate with many people. I mean, the pandemic was unexpected. Definitely, when you say to someone, have that emergency fund, most people think, why? What emergency? At the end of the day, I'm earning a salary, and at the end of the day, it's going to cover whatever.
Yeah.
But no, the pandemic showed us that things can happen that we have no control over, and with the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs or had to take pay cuts because their companies, whether they were in hospitality, whether they were in media entertainment, certain companies just could not function.
Yeah.
And therefore they couldn't either. They either had to just shed their workforce, or they had to just say to people, if you want to keep your job, everyone's going to take a pay cut. Now, if you'd had an emergency fund, if you'd had some savings somewhere to buffer that unexpected event, you'd have been ahead of the whole crisis in a way. Obviously there was health issues and all of other things, but I think that it taught everyone, and it taught me for sure, to really be strict about that putting aside money that's readily
Yeah.
available, me to use, not relying only on my paycheck. So not living paycheck to paycheck. I think the pandemic taught everyone, and that's really important. I think pandemic also meant that to an extent we were at home more. People, I think, engaged more with the whole investing culture. But I have to say this, that I found that people were doing this a lot of so we copycat, mimicking their friends, getting onto different chat groups and saying, because you've seen something on Twitter or you've seen a particular stock rise, and there was a lot of that sort of, which I think is dangerous stock picking. People were doing investing without any experience, and I think it was also the height of crypto. And we were all at home, and people were doing a lot more, and without education themselves, doing what you were talking about, and not even understanding that they're putting their capital at risk, because suddenly crypto seems to be doubling every day, and I think the pandemic also, I would say, engaged people's mind about investing. So
Yeah.
But there's a good, the bad, and the ugly about that, and I think we at Wealth are very conscious of ensuring that our customer base are aware that like I said, the capital is at risk, and even though there are products on the platform that you can help you grow your money, but we want you to do it in a I would say easy, conservative way. Yes, we've got portfolios on there that are diversified, but we want you to first of all understand what it is, what you're putting your money in, and make careful selections, and again presenting with the diversified options, so that you're not putting all your money into Apple stocks just because the Uber driver told you he made lots of money from Apple one day, or crypto or whatever. So I think the pandemic, for various reasons, people were at home. People probably had a bit more disposable income because we weren't going out to restaurants or parties or traveling so much. There was a bit of extra cash, and you think, oh, why can't I put that extra £1,000 into something that my friend said they made? And that culture, is something that people really have to also dial back on.
Yeah.
But I think the most important impact of the pandemic is people realizing that the unexpected does happen. And I mean, we had households where both parents either had pay cuts, or even the breadwinner lost their job overnight, and we had a lot of people in debt. And I think the pandemic has made people realize it's super important to save for a rainy day.
Yeah,
the big message.
Completely agree. Thank you. See a couple more people sharing questions, commenting, sending hearts, so we know you're listening. Thank you so much. Keep the questions coming. In about 5-10 minutes we'll get to the questions. Just about to do our quick fire round, but just to reiterate the points around the pandemic's impacts on the financial goals and financial planning. I loved your first point around people saying, before pandemic, people would be saying, what emergency? Especially, we have to be honest, Black people and minorities, they don't want to talk about emergencies. They don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about insurance. They don't want to talk about these situations where these negative external shocks might happen. But we have to plan. We have to be people that are willing to plan for the days where things don't go right. So I think that's really important. And as you said, it was very easy during the pandemic to see, okay, it seems like everyone is dabbling in this investing thing. Let me just buy anything. And now that we're in a different space, we can actually start to educate ourselves and say, actually, I'm going to take my time and learn. Amazing. I'm seeing some interaction in the chat. Let's go into our quick fire round. So I'm going to ask Bimpe a couple of questions, get her thoughts. Please answer also in the chat if you're listening and you want to engage.
Yes, it'd be great to see what people think. What your own personal habits are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
First question, investing in gold or investing in NFTs? NFTs are non-fungible tokens. Remember those things from back in the pandemic. What do you think?
Personal opinion, gold. I mean, first of all, I can wear it. I can enjoy it. And from that point of view, listen, everything has its ups and downs, and there's fluctuation in the markets, but and I'm not going to start giving you data about how well gold has done or not done. But NFTs, again, are new, and I think it's taken me a while to get my head around the way they operate. But gold, I can see, I can touch, I can feel, I can wear, and I can enjoy, and still, hopefully, it's holding some value and even growing in value.
I see a lot of people in the chat agree with you.
all the way. Must be West African in me. Someone says, yeah, go 35 years. Absolutely. I think it is same here.
Exactly.
Especially for women, and we want to wear our gold. Why not?
Exactly. And I feel like, especially with NFTs, there was a lot of hype that distracted people. They saw a couple monkey NFTs selling for thousands, and they thought any NFT will make me rich. So there's a story in there about discernment and doing your research as well. Robo advisors or financial advisors?
So maybe just to even explain, a robo-advisor is really when you are getting some financial advice or support in planning your goals or in investing digitally. So you're not engaging, with, I would say, not with a human being face to face, one on one, but most of tech has been built by human beings. Let's face it. So there are human beings behind the technology. But robo-advisors is where you're relying on a platform that will give you some advice, but it tends to be bespoke to an extent. It won't really always speak to your personal situation, but I think it would, it groups people based on their age or their gender or their professional life style or their income level, and can help you design using AI and machine learning, help you design some sort of financial plan. And I would say it does get it right, but it doesn't attend to that slightly more bespoke that you might need, because it doesn't know who you are, it doesn't know your culture, your attitude, your thinking, your psychology, etc. Although I know that, but apparently that may come very soon. So if you're asking me, robo advisors or financial advisors, I think when it comes to smaller amounts of money, and I would say, I'm not talking about if I sell a house or piece of land and I have hundreds of thousands, I probably want to sit next to a financial advisor to give me that interaction, because then I can break down exactly my own personal, and cultural habits, my, really share, because it's a large sum of money.
Exactly.
But if it's, a couple of thousand, a few thousand that I'm putting away on a regular basis, I think a robo advisor does the job. And then if that pot grows and grows and grows and grows to where you're now 6 figures, I think I'd be like, well, okay, I need to get a financial advisor to really guide me, and that's where I would deal personally.
Yeah. Great points there. I see a couple of people in the chat agreeing and saying, yeah, for more specific niche cases or large amounts of money, you would want to chat to a financial advisor, which I definitely think makes sense. Saving or investing? You can see these questions are a bit leading as well.
I think saving or investing, I think, for me, I think up until last year, saving in cash didn't give you any interest, to be honest. You didn't, you saved, a penny, you got a penny back, literally. And somehow when you're not paid interest on any of your accounts, especially here in the UK, then it means that you're actually, maybe the money has not quite grown, but you've probably lost some time value of the money.
Exactly.
And so I would say up until last year, investing probably was a good way to go. But again, capital at risk. I've got to remind you all that even when we're investing, we've got to be, careful in what we select, understand and be true to ourselves about our risk appetite. For example, if you put some money away and 10% overnight, loses value of 10% overnight, how will you feel? You've got to ask yourself those questions.
Exactly.
So personally, investing, I'm advanced in years, and I want my money to grow. I've got my own time horizon for growing my own pot is shorter because of my age. So I'm keen on investing. I'm keen on finding products that will help you grow. I am aware that the market does fluctuate, and therefore I'm putting capital at risk. But if I'm doing it in a safe and balanced environment, then investing is my personal preference. But like I said, with that capital at risk warning.
Exactly. Yeah, really good points there. Let us know, saving or investing. For me, like you said, a little bit of both. I think scenarios where I have shorter term goals, definitely be saving for those things. Holidays this year, holidays next year. Everyone seems to be getting married in my circle at the moment, so I've got a lot of saving to do, but also investing. I think investing will always be something that I'm doing with a portion of my income, particularly for those longer term financial goals as well. Let us know. One more before we go to your questions. PFM tools or personal finance management tools or Excel? And this is really thinking about budgeting, managing, and looking at all of your finances.
I think, now there are lots more options for personal financial management tools. More, so maybe 10 years ago it had to be Excel, do it yourself. But now I love the fact that you can Google and find a range of tools that already have the information, the tables, and literally I think all of us have certain similarities. We all have to pay our bills. We all have to pay utilities and XYZ. So I do love those tools, and the ones especially I like are the ones that you can actually link them to your bank account and download into every month. Download it into your tool what you've used your money for. Because one of the things that I find, sometimes you think, where did that money go? Like, how come I'm but again, those tools, I mean, there are tools, various tools out there. Some are quite comprehensive, and actually you can download it and actually it tells you how much to spend on entertainment. And you think, oh yeah, gosh, that's true. I did go out to eat. I got twice a week this month. So I do like the PFM definitely option for me personally. It takes away a lot of the hard work.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good points. I'm stuck in my old school ways, and I've created this like really fancy Excel that I update every month on that Sunday where I have my cup of tea and go through everything. But I also see the power of technology doing that as well. You might have seen like even my bank account now categorizes some of my spending.
So yes, some bank accounts do that, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's saying like, oh, okay, restaurant, this is bills. There's some elements of forecasting that is doing. Is saying at the top like how much you can expect to be in your bank account after bills. You can see that they're helping people with this kind of financial planning and thinking about the future as well. Brilliant. Amazing. Let's go to audience questions. We have 15 minutes left on this Instagram live.
Mary, you've turned around.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read the questions.
Okay.
We'll come back. Let's have a look at some questions. Welcome. Feel free to send a couple more questions in. I see a question that says, any thoughts about people with partners and managing kind of joint finance? Again, your personal opinion, how you've navigated this before, or how people can do this.
I think that's so important, and thank you for raising that question. I think a lot of people will share with you that not sharing or talking about money in a relationship, it can be really, really negative, can have a negative effect because we're not all at par in terms of our attitude to money. So it is important from the get-go to have that discussion. Again, people's earning capacities might be different, but at least even if you're not sharing exactly how much you're earning with each other, at least agree that there's a common pot that we must contribute into every month. And again, that's part of the need. So each partner knows there's a need to put X amount into the pot, and therefore that's something that must come out of their paycheck before they start spending on their personal ones, on those shoes and bags and what have you. So it's very important to actually have a plan and to do that joint need together, and even have joint, especially when you have having children or want to buy a home. So again, that pot, you might have two pots, one for the regular pot of bills and overheads on a regular basis, and one for a pot that actually will serve your family's medium to long-term goals. Now that's a pot that you might decide to look at investing once you understand a bit more about what that means and how to do it. But yes, it's important to speak about it and actually do it, not just talk, but take action.
Yeah, exactly. I think you mentioned some good there, and particularly like being willing to talk about money, same way we talk about what we're going to eat tonight or what we're going to eat this week.
Exactly.
Shopping, sometimes money can happen around it where people don't want to engage and talk about it. There was another question about thoughts around budgeting and giving back, especially as Africans, charity giving, helping others, black tax, we've alluded to it already. Any thoughts about how people can manage this?
I mean, definitely. Again, we're still taking that same paycheck that's £100 and 100% your income, and if you're able to put away between 10 and 20%, maybe in that 20%, take a portion of it, and whether it is 10% of that 20% that you say is for your actual you're giving. Okay, and I also know that certain people, from a religious point of view, may actually feel obliged to give more. There's this tradition of tithing in churches where you give 10%, and again, if it's your personal call, but I think it's important to have a habit of giving. And yes, giving might even not just be a charity that you love or like, but a charity begins at home. Giving is often to do with supporting family wherever they are, whether here in the UK or in Nigeria, Ghana, wherever it is that you have family, in the Caribbean, in Asia, wherever, and then that's important. And factoring that, and obviously not putting too much pressure on yourself to the point where you're giving so much you can't afford to live here, but saying, this is my 100% paycheck. Can I put 5% or 10% towards helping people I know or don't know? And but if it's got to be done, it's the structure.
Yeah.
I would way, not be too sort of ad hoc and spontaneous.
Yeah, and I would also encourage another situation there with being willing to talk about money with people. And
yes.
Another way I've heard this described is, are you funding situations where you're giving someone a fish or teaching them how to fish? Like, you don't want to just be funding people endlessly to do random different projects, but actually, are you teaching them with the money that you're giving to equip themselves to set up a better financial life and to not keep coming back to you and be transparent with them? I think sometimes as diaspora people in the diaspora, people back home can think that we just have endless supplies of money. They're not seeing the grind that we're going through here. So being willing to have those honest conversations with your family members can be really powerful, and all the best with that as well. We have a question about managing money and mental health. So any questions about people who are a bit more impulsive with money, using spending as kind of retail therapy? Any thoughts around that as well?
I mean, you talked about a book called The Psychology of Money, and that's part of it. Yes, money can be used as, like you just said exactly. Retail therapy is often used, people think it staves off, depression. Yes, you get that initial high when you bought that item, but trust me, how many of us looked in our wardrobe during COVID? I certainly did, and said, I've had this, I've been at home for 2 years, I've not worn any of these shoes, nobody cares about these handbags, and literally, I mean, I had a friend who had just come back on holiday in Dubai and had bought us, gone to town, and literally COVID struck the next month. She didn't wear a pair of shoes for 2 years. And by the time she's wearing them, they're probably gone out of fashion. So it's that material, that need to acquire that thing. Yes, you get that high, but often it's a very short-lived high. And actually, many of us have looked into our wardrobes and realized that. And speaking of our wardrobes, one I would say tip that I will share with you is there is this culture, and it's good for the environment, of really, I would say, doing our bit against fashion waste. There's a lot of fast fashion out there. We all know that we can buy an outfit that's on the catwalk. A copy of it is in Zara or H&M at a fraction, and we just spontaneously on a Friday evening go shopping and spend 100 quid and think that's fine. Now, I think one of the things that is happening now, you can actually buy decent stuff online and sell. So talking about, during COVID, it made me really look at my wardrobe and decide that there were things in my wardrobe I hadn't worn before, I had hardly worn. And I went onto a couple of websites, and you probably know them all, and managed to sell quite a few items, and the money went to my savings account. So that's something you can do when you think you're short of cash or don't have enough money to save, or you can start off that emergency fund by really taking a hard look at your wardrobe and deciding which of these items are you able to sell. And you can sell some of the stuff as partly used or partly loved, as we previously loved, as we call it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something I think I'd like to just mention, put out there as another tip.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's a great tip. Something, whilst I've been unemployed, I've gone through my whole wardrobe. I've looked at stuff. If I've not worn it in the past year, it's probably not going to get worn. I put a pile for charity, a pile for family members, and a pile for selling online. So I completely agree. That's a really great idea. Yeah. Okay, as we wrap up, I would love to just talk about what's next for Wealth 8 this year. What are your plans? I hear rumors about an in-person event coming soon. Do you want to just share a bit of details about the business?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we're really in our third year as a digital investment platform, and we're really keen on building community. So we're not just about selling new products and saying, come onto the platform and start investing, and because we want to make our fees. No, we're really about getting to know each other's money habits, creating safe spaces where we can talk about money, questions of what we have raised tonight online. And so we've decided that this year we'll have a number of in-person and online events. And our next event is at the end of February, February 29th, will be an in-person event at a lovely venue in Kensington. Spaces will be limited. We're not charging, it's for free, but because spaces are limited, you're first to hear, hot off the press. Once we send out the Eventbrite notices, I would advise you to please sign as quickly as possible, because we will not have a limited space, and it will be an amazing event. Lots of, again, sharing in person. Thank God, post-COVID we can do more of that, and we'll have more time to ask questions and even meet other people and learn from other people's habits. So we're very, very keen about creating a community of like-minded people and finding each other and to support and encourage and motivate each other. So think about a financial Tupperware party, more or less. Next event is 29th of February. Put it in your diary and look out in your inbox for the newsletter and Eventbrite. And that's going to be an amazing event. And we'll continue to have events online and in person throughout the year. So that's this year. We want to really do more for our community, more about, talking, sharing financial tips, education, and, helping you on that journey so that you build confidence and stop being overwhelmed about the idea of saving and investing. And it sort of becomes second nature, but you also have other friends doing the same thing, other people in your network who you can share with. And that's what we stand for.
Yes, I love all of that. Financial Tupperware party, you've heard it here first. Thursday, the 29th of February. It'll be a really fun event. I'll be there. Bimpe will be there. Yeah.
It'll be an evening event, so it'll be after work.
Exactly.
Relax, chill. There'll be food and drink, and like I said, meeting familiar and new faces.
Exactly.
And, we'll have again people to talk
today. Similar conversation in person, meeting like-minded people. So save the dates in your diary and look out for the event very, very soon. Now You're Talking Network, we also are very passionate about the power of community, the power of, in our case, sisterhood, bringing people together, supporting each other. So if you do like the sound of that, do check out our page. Thank you so much, everyone. We're about to wrap up. It's been a great conversation talking about financial goals. How do you set them? How do you stick to the macro challenges you might face along the way? Hopefully we've answered, I believe, most of the questions in the chat. But if you have any questions when this recording comes out, please comment, come along to the live event at the end of February as well. And otherwise, good luck with your goals and reviewing them.
And by all means, download the app. And,
yeah.
At least you can, we've got financial education content on the app. Start that journey, like Mary said. Start, reading, and they're little short articles, bite size, 2-3 minutes that you can read and just start to, understand and learn about saving and investing, and hopefully get to a point where you're more comfortable with it. But we look forward to seeing more of all of you, and thank you for joining. It's been an enjoyable evening for me and hopefully for you. So set your goals and keep your goals. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.